I'm thrilled that my guest today, we got a real treat for you. Two world-renowned anchors. Bianna Golodryga is, of course, an anchor on CNN International, daily at 11 a.m. She's an award winner. Yonit Levi anchors the #1 primetime news show in Israel. They've got a new book out that is a must-read. It's just out today. Don't Feed the Lion. And congratulations, guys. I love the concept.
Thanks
so much, Donny.
So the book, we'll get into the book in a minute. The book takes on anti-Semitism from it's a children's book aimed at kids 8 to 12, but obviously I think it's certainly a book for adults also. Before we get into it, how's things in Israel? It's been 10 days since the ceasefire. How are things feeling over there?
I mean, they're feeling better in the sense that we have 20 hostages that are home, back with their families. And I think the country is elated about that. Cautiously optimistic that we might see at the end of this road really a demilitarization of this terror organization, Hamas, that perpetrated the worst massacre against Jews since the Holocaust. So there is, I think, a nation that is collectively breathing in now and regrouping after 2 years that were incredibly intense, that had, lows and highs, obviously Iran and Hezbollah and all of that. Very intense. I think we all feel like we kind of ran a marathon for 2 years and now we've stopped. Our muscles still hurt. Physically, we're exhausted, but a little bit better.
Yeah, I mean, things are better. Obviously, the billion-dollar question is for both of you guys is how do you disarm Hamas? Because if they stay armed, then I'm not saying more of the same because things are better and the hostages are home, but we're back, not back to ground zero, but back a ways back.
Yeah, and are you going to have an international stabilization force made up of, Muslim and Arab soldiers patrolling the streets of Gaza while Hamas is still in charge? I mean, the likelihood of that happening are slim to none. And so, Yonit's the expert here, but just judging it from the direction it's gone in so many years in the past and where it may go, in the months to come, is if Hamas doesn't disarm, then it may be Israel, once again, the IDF, stepping in and, constantly striking like they have been, like they continue to do in Lebanon, maybe not on the ground, but from the air. The ceasefire still holds there, but there are still elements of Hezbollah that they continue to strike as well.
I see the latter happening. I see the IDF having to go in. I'm curious your takes on it. Your take on it, Yonit.
I think at this point in time where we were at, I think most Israelis, and you saw in the poll, would say it's time to stop because of the hostages, because of the reservists that have been doing 5 and 6 different sets of reserve duty, because of the legitimacy that Israel was sadly lacking of around the world. I don't think you'd hear, Donny, a lot of Israelis who would think that Israel will not enter Gaza again or will not have some sort of skirmish with this intransigent terror organization. I suppose we will see that maybe in smaller incursions than this full-scale war, but I assume it will still take time. There will have to be some sort of power taking over in Gaza that isn't this organization. We can be optimistic, but very, very careful. We can't let this ever happen again.
Yeah. When we saw the speeches of Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff up there, when they mentioned Bibi's name, there were boos. Mentioned Trump names, there were big hurrahs. How's everybody feeling about Mr. Donald Trump over there in Israel right now?
I mean, it's such an interesting thing. I think that it's the only country in the world where he would walk into the parliament and get cheers from both sides, the opposition and the coalition. That's a weird. I don't think he'd get that in the United States.
No, very
very
split down. It depends what restaurant he walks into.
Exactly. And so, on the one hand, obviously the Israeli right and the Bibi camp, why they support Trump, that is clear. I think it's very interesting, the opposition supporting Trump, because they look at him as the man who brought the deal. They think that if it wasn't for him, there wouldn't be a deal. So that was this remarkable thing in which he got cheered from every part of the aisle, including Hostage Square. That was something that was a sight to see for sure. I think he enjoyed it as well.
Oh yeah, Bianna, look, I've been very outspoken against Trump for years, and I gave him major kudos. You got to give him kudos on this. I mean, it really was he who, in all the things he is, that pulled this thing off.
He did something that no other U.S. president did. And I have to say, given how much I've been focused specifically on the hostages and their families and their plight and getting to know them, I was quite surprised. And you've known Trump even before he was president for
Yes.
many years. It's rare to see him get so emotional and consistent about one particular issue as he did with the hostages. I mean, at times, and Yonit, correct me if I'm wrong, it did seem as if he was more focused on them and their safety and making sure they got out okay, and constantly reminding the world about the savagery of what happened that day than even Prime Minister Netanyahu at times. And so I was really struck by that and moved by it. And so were the hostage families, and kudos to them for continuing to reach out directly to him. But yes, he achieved something that, had been out of reach for so many years. He stopped a lot of bloodshed, and he reunited families that had been ripped apart for 2 years now. So he deserves all of that credit.
One last question. We'll get to the book, Yonit. The take on Bibi right now, pretty split down the middle over there.
Well, it does depend. I think when you look at the polls, the country is surrounded, answers the questions that Netanyahu would say no to, answers yes. Yes to stop the war that happened. Yes to a commission of inquiry around what is happening after what happened on October 7th, and yes to the return of the hostages. And now for a long time said we have to continue the war. I don't know if it's split in the middle. I think that the question here in this country is honestly who will win the elections. We are in an election year. There might be early elections. And I think the question is, will he be elected again? He has a solid base. He definitely does. So if
Sounds
anyone
familiar.
could...
Sounds familiar.
If anyone could get elected after this calamity of October 7th, it could happen. But again, because of this coalition, the way that the political structure in Israel works, you don't need the 50% plus one. Yeah. You need your base. And if you have that strong base, you can be prime minister.
Let's get
he also has the backing of Trump.
Yeah,
so
that's a big thing. That's a big deal. Don't feed the lion. Let's get into it. I want to read a quote that I read that you guys said, and it kind of sums up why you guys did this. You said, we approach this project wearing three hats: as journalists who seek clarity, as Jews who feel the weight of history, and as mothers who want our children to live in a world that is kinder and more just. That kind of sums it up, doesn't it, Bianna?
It does. I mean, this is our first book. If somebody had asked, what is your first book going to be about? A few years ago, I would have never said it would be about anti-Semitism, a fictional story that I co-wrote with one of my best friends, 5,000 miles apart, dealing with anti-Semitism of all subjects. And yet here we are. As we all know, anti-Semitism is a rot and a cancer that we've been dealing with for millennia. It's one of the oldest forms of hate. So we've seen it ebb and flow. Yonit has really, I think, crystallized the explanation of always every few years trying to put that evil genie back in the bottle and suppress it for a little bit, but inevitably it rears its ugly head. And I never thought it here in New York City that, again, before October 7th, I would have to be answering questions from my young child who loved sports and basketball and was asking why certain celebrities were saying very anti-Semitic, blatantly anti-Semitic things, posting them on social media, and not being reprimanded for it the way any other slight and racist comment would have been if it had been directed towards any other minority group. And when we didn't have the answer for it, the back of my mind had planted a seed that this is a problem. Their educators didn't have resources. I reached out to schools in New York City, and there are no books for children this age on anti-Semitism. Kindergartners have Hanukkah books, high schoolers have Holocaust books, but there's nothing for this age group that deals with anti-Semitism. And then, of course, October 7th happened, and I couldn't keep that in the back of my mind anymore. So many of us had sadly, rightly guessed that we would only see a spike in anti-Semitism after those attacks. And that's when Yonit and I decided that we needed to write the book we couldn't find.
So Bianna teed it up that this is a story of Theo and Annie, two 11-year-olds. It opens up in a Shabbat dinner where Theo finds out that his hero, a soccer star, has said something anti-Semitic online, and then it takes off from there.
Yeah, I mean, Theo is 13, his younger sister 11, Kaplan
11,
family,
13.
A Jewish family, and of course we add into that mix. They're the two heroes. We add into that mix a friend of Theo's, Gabe, who is not Jewish, because I think what we wanted is also to have
show the ally, right?
Exactly how important that would be to have that kind of outward gaze or inward gaze from the community, and so that's how it begins. That's the inciting incident. But I think And Bianna astutely pointed this out. And when she said it, I was like, you're right. It's what the drama in the story comes from the fact that the grownups don't really stand up or don't stand up enough and don't protect the children enough. And some of them try to blur this and some of them try to say it's not such a big deal. And it's the kids who really, and I think it's true in real life as well, they know the difference between right and wrong. They know in their gut that this is wrong, and they act upon it.
Yeah, Gabe the Ally, important figure, and just Bianna, talk to me about the role that he plays in the book and what he kind of symbolizes.
So Gabe was a character that we knew we'd need, and we didn't obviously want any superficial characters. We all wanted, and you want to have a sort of a tertiary backseat role, but we also knew that it was Theo and Annie, and then the events subsequently that happened to them. And Gabe was one of these characters that just flourished and matured in our minds to the point where, we don't have a favorite character, but he became so dynamic. And, Yonit and I would meet every week. And as we started to talk about his background, who he was, some of the experiences and losses and suffering that he had through his short life, also 13 years old, but in many ways wise beyond his years, with so many of these kids this age, and we've all been there, and we're dealing with kids this age now. It's all about their lives and their struggles, and no one understands what they're going through, and no one has it as bad as they do. And I think Gabe, what he does so beautifully and organically is help remind Annie and Theo and others at this new school where he's just joined that it's not just about them, and everyone has certain experiences in life that people need to respect and learn more from.
Yeah, you need. If a kid's reading this book, I know my kids, and they're a little bit older. My youngest one is 17. When October 7th happened, and she saw what was happening in the street, she was like, Dad, are we going to be okay? Is there going to be another Holocaust? Kids reading this book, going in with that apprehension, how does it feed into that, or not feed into that, actually?
Well, I think first of all, just in the sense that we distance it a little bit from October 7th, because we wanted to show that this had always been an issue. It's not only, it hadn't started after October 7th. And I think we tried not to be didactic about it, but I do hope that it gives tools to say to kids, you're not alone, and you can deal with this with the people you love, the people who are around you. Take your time. Some of them take longer to realize what they want to do or what they need to do than other characters in this book. And I think it really just highlights for kids the fact that they can stand up. They have the power to do that in whatever way they find. Each of the characters finds a slightly different way. But it is something I hope that people can find comfort in, whether they are 13-year-olds or their parents, hopefully.
Bianna, you both are obviously in the media, and Bianna, were you surprised and still surprised? I had Jake on, one of your colleagues, last week, and we were talking about how few people in the media have been able to kind of clearly, I don't want to say stand up for Israel or stand up for Jews, but kind of come at things, at least from an even perspective, that there tends to be a real media bias from the far left and from the far right that ends up biting Jews.
I've never seen a conflict covered as intensely as this region as a whole. I'm even saying before October 7th. So after October 7th, I knew that this is going to be a turning point, and this is where a lot of our attention and focus would shift. And it's always struck me at how much, I would even say, outsized coverage Israel has received. It's rare. I mean, think about any other country. This is a country the size of New Jersey. Think about any other country, friend, foe, where you not only know the leader's name, but you know the finance minister's name, the head of security's name. I mean, everyone knows politicians' names in Israel. And so knowing that was one thing. But, and again, I'm not a war expert, and this has been a brutal, horrific, longest war in Israel's history. I will say the difference is there are so many emotional opinions about this issue, as you noted. It's, wall-to-wall coverage, so much loss in humanity, but it was always important to tell the story not through one lens. I mean, there was really no moral equivalence. Israel was attacked by a terrorist group and then launched a very brutal and aggressive war in response and trying to get its people back. And sadly, there was a lot of loss of life. I think what was also different is the subsequent the fallout for Jews in the diaspora in particular, and what we'd start to see on college campuses. I never thought that Zionism was a controversial word, and it's suddenly turned into one. Politics aside, it simply means that you support the right for Israel to exist as a Jewish state, and then that became questioned. There was a bit, I would even go as far as to say, some gaslighting about what we could acknowledge was anti-Semitism and what wasn't, and to tell a Jew that feels that they're being attacked that that's not what it is. There were some lonely experiences as well. The benefit of working at a cable network and having my own show and having producers that support me is that we have a lot of real estate here, and I was able to tell a lot of the stories from the hostage families perspective, from the rape allegation and the brutality towards women that was committed by Hamas. And we also talk about the humanitarian toll that the war had on Gazans as well, who are hopefully now finally having the opportunity to rebuild their lives too.
I'm going to ask you a question that's impossible to answer. Why when there's an atrocity against Jews or hatred against Jews, it's dealt with differently than just about any other group? Why is that?
I think for various reasons. And David Baddiel, a British comedian, usually wrote a book that's called Jews Don't Count. What he meant, of course, by that is that racism against Jews is considered something less urgent than racism against other groups. There are all kinds of reasons for that. I think many people see Jews as privileged. Perhaps also anti-Semitism plays a part in all of that. So it took a very long time, we're still not there, for many to realize this is as dangerous as any other form of racism. And so there are various reasons. I think the important thing is that we point at it and say, this is an issue. Let's talk about it. I think one of the, important things that Bianna did while we were writing is kind of to say this isn't the universality of hatred general. No, we are writing about anti-Semitism. Obviously, it's supposed to give tools to all kinds of kids that are dealing with issues, but it's still about this hatred. We want to look at it. We want to not look away from it, from this problem, and we want to analyze it. I think I didn't answer your question, but I really did try.
Well, you did.
I made an honest effort.
No,
but you said it was impossible. So,
well, I think the answer is anti-Semitism. I mean, and for what reason that exists, that we can delve into another reason. Bianna, you mentioned you guys are writing the book 5,000 Miles Apart. Talk to me about the process, because I can't even fathom how that happens and how it just kind of take me into making the sausage and
we had a big dream and quite ambitious.
What was the first conversation?
So Yonit, I have to say, was the first person I turned to. When October 7th happened, I was in Albany for my son's soccer tournament and woke up.
Are you a soccer mom? Are you a traveling soccer mom?
Yes, like complete. I am living it. I know every hotel, motel off of every highway.
I have girls. I kept them off the soccer field. I kept them off riding horses because I wasn't doing it, but good for you.
Yes, well, so that is my weekend. That's my glamorous weekend, is going to soccer games. And we were at a tournament in Albany, and October 7th happened. And I immediately, I didn't want to freak the kids out, and Jake's, playing on the field. And I immediately thought, like, Yonit needs to put out, because she has a fantastic podcast as well called Unholy. And I said, Yonit needs to put out an emergency episode because I need to hear what's going on and how this is being interpreted, as we were getting trickles of information. So she did the next day, and then we were in touch, and then we started, we've known each other for years, but after
how do you guys know each other?
I came to interview Bianna. She was in Yahoo News at 2016. That's how we became friends.
Okay. Right before the 2016 election.
Okay.
So then we started texting every single day after that phone call. And a couple of weeks later, just said, Yonit, I think we're going to see another spike, a huge spike in anti-Semitism following this. There's been something that I've been thinking about doing for a while now, and I really can't think of a better partner to do it with than you. And so that became honestly, Donny, it was like our therapy. It wasn't as if we needed to carve time out, or it was, we get each other so well on so many different levels. But Yonit never sleeps, which is a super,
important quality.
Useful.
Yes.
And so she's 7 hours, ahead of me, and I've got to realize that it was fine to text her at 3 or 4 in the morning her time And we would just talk the book. I mean, talk through the book an hour and a half or so once a week, and
More, yeah.
it,
And then each
yeah,
would go to their own, would write parts of it. And it started, I would write the Israeli grandparents because that was, for me, the sort of starting point. And of course, you've noticed that Bianna could write the soccer player at 13
Yes,
pretty
yes.
well.
Yes.
So that's, that's how it started.
So
Yeah.
Theo shows up at school and there's a swastika on his locker. And where does it go from there?
It quickly spirals because not only has his superhero said something horrific, the responses that he was hoping to hear from his teammates, his coach, his friends, he's not hearing. And instead, there's joking, there's you didn't mean it. And this I think goes back to one of your earlier questions about how we got here. And it's a fictional story, but it's based on so many real time events where it's not as if people ignore anti-Semitism, but it's kind of swept under the rug. It's patched up.
It's always an and, a but, or there's always
Yes.
a context to it. Yeah.
We condemn it. Let's move on. Kumbaya. I mean, no other.
I mean, like our
basis.
vice president talking about when group chats talk about racism and anti-Semitism in the most vulgar ways. Oh, kids will be kids. That kind of thing, right?
Yeah. It's literally locker room talk. And for Theo, as somebody who, and we all know kids, we may have been these kind of kids where all you want to do is blend in. You just want to be that kid that doesn't have to leave Friday night, soccer practice early for Shabbat dinner. You don't want to have to worry about your bar mitzvah prep, and instead you want to spend time with your friends. And now here's another distraction that reminds people that you're different. And when that becomes his burden, as opposed to, again, as Yonit noted, the adults around them that are supposed to deal with this and combat it, that's where a lot of his challenges start to, come to the surface.
I'm going to ask you each, Bianna knows I'm the marketing guy. I'm going to ask you each to finish a sentence so we can sell some books here. Let me start with you, Yonit. If I'm a parent, the reason I should buy this book is...
I hope it's a good story, but also I think it could help a parent deal with problems of hate and how to empower their kids to stand up when needed.
Let's be clear. This is a book that talks about dealing with hate beyond anti-Semitism.
Yes.
I mean, it's a book that really is equipped to fight or give tools against any kind of hate. Beyond if you're a kid, what's the reason to read this book?
It's a great book. If you're a boy or a girl, no matter who you are, no matter your background, it's a great story. That was our first goal, to just write a fantastic story. And then also to teach them in times of, uncertainty, when they're facing situations where they know, because we all know in our gut when something is wrong, but everyone else is reacting differently. It's okay. It's okay to go with your gut, because if anything, kids have a stronger gut sense than many of the adults around them.
Yeah, we tend to screw that gut up if you could just kind of let it stay intact. Bianna, before I let you go, we have a mayor's race here. We have a candidate, believe it or not, in New York City in the year 2025 that will not recognize Israel as a Jewish state. I would love your thoughts on that.
Listen, I will just say this goes back to one of the themes we raised, that yes, views and concerns among Jewish New Yorkers have been discussed and have been pointed out, but it seems to be sort of not an afterthought. And I know that's not the number one priority for people that live wherever you live. You want, low crime, you want to feel safe, you want affordable housing. I get all of that. But again, change the narrative and change the demographic and write in some of the comments that have been made towards a different minority group. And I think we'd all be surprised if that wasn't one of the leading headlines or concerns from some of the demographic in the largest Jewish populated city in the country. So I think it speaks to some of our earlier conversation that while his views have been raised and are a factor, they're not highlighted the way I think some of those views that would have been expressed against other minorities would have been.
You mean things like not being able to say globalizing intifada, which means kill Jews violently? If it was a set of words that another group felt that way, it would be dealt with very differently. I think that's fair to say.
Yeah.
Guys,
I mean, it speaks of, yeah.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say it's the same. It's the same rationale behind what we saw on college campuses.
Yeah. Guys, congratulations. Don't Feed the Lion. If you're a kid, read it. If you're an adult, if you're somewhere in between, read it. The book is out today. Don't rush. Don't walk. Run to get it. Guys, I know how busy you both are, being full-time soccer moms, being a mom of 3 kids, being anchoring shows, doing podcasts, all of the above. You guys are super people. So I really appreciate your time, guys.
Thank you so much.
Thanks so much, Donny.
Everybody, thanks for watching. If you like it, hit that subscribe button. And we love having you here watching On Brand. And just don't miss any future episodes. So don't forget to hit that subscribe button. We'll see you next time.